Page 114, Swan Waltz. There's nothing new being presented here. We're just using things we know, but you can notice the music's getting a little more involved. This is one of those pieces when you look at it, you think, oh, good grief, what's going on? Some people look at it and think, oh, this looks neat, let's try it out. Well, let's see what happens. I'll go through the routine that I typically use to learn a piece of music. So look it over. It's 2 pages long of music. It's longer than that, but it's 2 pages of music to learn. Treble and bass clef, 2 sharps in the key signature. We're in the key of D major, so make sure you're doing the D major scale, and go ahead and do the B minor scale also, because it has 2 sharps in its key signature. I have the videos. You go do what I say in the videos. 3/4 time signature, which makes sense. It's a waltz. And it's coming in on a pickup beat. We're coming in on beat 3. So the first 2 beats of that measure would be probably at the end. If you look, it's a half note at the end, the last measure. So it's okay. This is beat 3 and 1 is what it is. Let's take it one hand at a time because we're moving around a bit. Right hand, you're kind of here to start. You're kind of stretching out. 3 and 1, 3 and 1 and 2 and. So much for that. Okay. Well, that's pretty much page 114. Now, at the bottom of page 114, the last 2 notes, you just come up a little bit to pick up to measure 17. Now you're here. 1 and 2, same rhythm, and then thumb. This is measure 19. You have a half note and then an 8th note. These, we're changing hand positions on the repeated note. Measure 21 is just an E minor chord. Try to get them down at the same time, and that's a kicker. Because right before measure 21, you played a B, A, those 8th note, A to here. That's awkward. I use weight to push the notes down. So the weight is on the A at first. It's on, the weight is there. And I get these other fingers in position, and I lift the wrist a little bit, and as I lower the wrist, I'm lowering the weight. I simply switch fingers. And the weight pushes the notes down, not the fingers. It's awkward, but keep at it. It comes eventually. And measure 21, it's 1 and 2. On 2, you have an 8th note rest, or an 8th rest, excuse me. And then on the end of 2, you're down here. So it's 1 and 2 and here. It's the same notes, an octave lower. And 2. Then the left hand plays the next note, and then you're back up here. It's a C sharp there in measure 23. You can do that if you got really big hands, but otherwise, this is. And then again on the end of 2, you're down here for this note. It's a little tricky. It'll make a little more sense when we put the hands together. The last 2 lines I'm going to wait until we put the hands together because it's easier to see what's going on. Left hand's just broken chords. D, 1 chord and then a 4 chord, 1 chord, you got this going on. Okay, let's go down to measure 13. You're here, then you come down here. You have to look on that one. You don't have a lot of choice, but then come back up. And then measure 17. Now you're up here. It's a D and an F sharp. It's a B minor chord. You can do that if you want, or you can do that. However, I don't know how big your hands are. If you don't want your hand up in here, then you do that. Otherwise, you just do that. And then going out today. Again, you can figure all these 2 and 3 here if you want. And then the last, and then come down measure 21. 1 and 2, and then you play the D in the next measure. And then the next one, this measure 23, it's an A, E, G. The G is 3 ledger lines above the staff, remember. 1 ledger line is a C, 2 is an E, 3 is a G. So it's a, and then you play the A in the next measure up here. Okay, put the hands together. Let's see what happens here. It's here. Now I'm going to hesitate all over because I just want to know how the hands are working together. It's here. Just make sure when you play these eighth notes, the left hand is resting. That's pretty much it till we get to measure 21. Measure 21, you're here. 1 and 2. When I play that, the left right hand comes up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and. That's just eighth notes going up. And the last two lines there, starting with measure 26, the left hand plays the first two. I'm watching the stems here. You can't always rely on that, but a lot of times you can, and here you can. They put in RH and LH, that helps too, but I just watch the stems. Stems going down on the first two, so I'll use the left hand. Stems going up after that, I'll use the right hand. And I do that throughout. The left hand is playing the first beat, and the right hand is playing the other two. 1 and 2. Now, measure 28, the left hand's got to be up here. So you just bring the left hand up and hover over, and when the right hand finishes, then you start in. So it's... And again, measure 30, bring the left hand up and have it ready to go. And then the left hand plays the D and the F sharp. It has an 8VA above it, so it's up here. And the left hand plays, the last one is a D, but it has an 8VA under it, remember? If the 8VA is above it, you go up. If the 8VA is under it, you go down. So we go down. If you have a short keyboard, just play the lowest D you have. So once I have an idea how the hands are working, then I go back over the trouble spots and iron them out. Then go over it all and make sure there's no hesitations anywhere. You can go as slow as you need to, doesn't matter, but no hesitations. And then once I have that, then I'll think about the articulation, because up to this point, I've been trying to connect everything. You have to lift up for the rest, but otherwise. Here, they want to lift up, lift up, lift up. It's like taking a breath. Until you get to measure 21, you're here, it's connected. Now, hold there on measure 24, the fermata. Just hang on to that as long as it feels right. If I do it with a metronome, I'll double it and I'll hold it for 2 counts instead of 1 and then go on, because I need to stay with the metronome here. And then for the last 2 lines, you're pretty much connecting all of these. See, they've got every 2 measures with a slur. I suggest you slur the whole thing together. Connect it all. The last 2 lines. Now the dynamics apply to the melody, which is the right hand, most of it. MP mezzo piano is sort of soft. Whatever you think sort of soft is. This left hand needs to be super soft. When you get to measure 9, or the pickup to measure 9, you go up to moderately loud. That's a forte. Sort of loud. Just a little louder. The left hand's still in the background. And then pick up to measure 17 at the bottom of the page 140. Back down. It's soft. Then on measure 18, you get the crescendo. You're going to go back up to moderately loud, because there's a moderately loud in measure 21. You've got a couple measures to get there. There's not a lot of difference between them. So what I typically do is I'll listen to, is there a motif or a phrase or something that I can use? And we have this. This ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum. Okay, I'm going to use those, and each one of those is just going to get a hair louder. So on measure 17, I'm moderately soft. On measure 19, I'm not going up yet. Now a little louder. Now, so it's measure 19, I was sort of soft, and measure 20, I go up just a little bit, and then measure 21, I'm moderately loud. Just a little bit. We plan these out. If you don't, you'll be loud by measure 20 at the beginning. You'll be loud by then. It's too soon. On measure 21, you're sort of loud. And here, it's hard to tell where the melody is. I think the melody is the quarter note in measure 21. Here, that's melody. This all is not. And then on measure 22, it's this. That's melody. And that's very soft. So this has to be really soft. It should be clear to the listener what's melody and what's not. So this is melody in here. See, because all of this, that's just a flourish going up. And it's all flourish, it's not melody. So it should be in the background. And then the coda, the last two lines on page 15, there's no melody here, it's all the same. It starts out at measure 26. The song ended on measure 25. That's the last note of the melody, that's it. The rest of this is just an afterthought. Well, it's a coda, of course it is. And it's all start out moderately loud, all of it. Then come down to moderately soft. Stay there. In my opinion, you could put a diminuendo in there. So at measure 30, I'm going to come down to soft. And then very soft. It seems like they just left out the soft there, or a diminuendo or something, because you're kind of getting softer as you're going through the coda. On these eighth notes, you're starting out here, but each one, you're just getting softer. 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 Whatever the notes are, just really soft. And of course, as I said, there's no melody in that. It's just flourishes going up. The speed, well, it's a waltz. A moderato con moto, okay, whatever that is. Moderato is somewhere in the middle. Moto, con moto means with motion. In other words, don't drag it. Don't go. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. See? No, that's dragging it. It's got to move. Not real fast. 1, 2, 3, no. Somewhere in the faster part of the middle range. Makes no sense at all, but it's music. What do you expect? One, 2, 3, 1. That's fine right in there. Now the roadmap on this. If you look at measure 24, above there's a DC off coda. The DC, remember, means go back to the beginning. So you're going to go back to the beginning. The coda sign is at the bottom of page 114. It's between measures 15 and 16. You see the circle with the crosshairs? Yeah. When you get to that point, you're going to jump over to measure 25. That curved line on the D, on measure 15, there's a D and its curved line to the next. Well, that curved line shows on measure 25, there's a curved line there going from nowhere. It's the same curved line, it's a tie. So the first note on measure 25 is tied. You're not going to play it. You're hanging on from measure 15 there, and then you finish it on the coda. Now, when you do the DC, there's a note at the top, at the beginning, above the staff. Second time, right hand plays one octave higher. Isn't that fun? So after the DC, you're ending up here, and you go back to do it again. Instead of here, they want the right hand up here. So it's here, get your right hand up here ready to go. The left hand stays where it's at. Now you have to adjust things a little bit. When you start getting high up, the piano wants to get softer. So you may have to play the left hand a lot softer here to stay under the right hand when it's up here. And when you're doing the coda, let's go down to measure 15. Second time you're up here. And you go to the coda, that tied note is the same note, D, and then there's at the coda measure 25, there's an LOCO. That means local or where it's written. So, but it starts on beat 2. That first beat is still 8VA. The second beat, the rest, that's local. That means you got to come down here and you're playing the rest of this where it's written, is all that's. Now they've added pedal. You don't need pedal. I think it sounds just fine without, but they've added it. Okay, let's use pedal. We're just adding the overtones is all we're doing, because we don't need help connecting things. We can do it with the fingers. We're just adding the overtones. It's going to be a lag pedal. If I pedal it just like it's shown, it sounds like this. You see at measure 4 underneath it says pedal simile. That means keep pedaling the same way you've been pedaling, and that is overlapping and you're changing it on every measure. And you would continue to do that until measure 13. They give you they give you more pedaling instructions. Yeah, the simile just goes until you get something else going on. Now the coda, they're pedaling all those eighth notes together here. Keep it down all the way to the end. And then the pedal and the hands come up together. If that's what you like, fine. If you're not listening too much to it, it sounds okay. But I would like to make some suggestions, because we can do things with this pedal. A lot of these method books I find is they keep the pedaling simple for you, because you got enough to think about. My problem is that you end up hearing a lot of junk because the pedaling is messing it up, and you get used to hearing the junk. I'd prefer not to. I'd like you to listen to the pedal very carefully. For instance, at the beginning, I could lift up on the third beat so I get a rest here. Those eighth notes are clear. I'm just lifting up on beat 3 is all it is. Again. See, on measure 7, I still lift it up, but I keep the A down. I like that better. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to lift up on beat 3 because I like that sound better. And the same thing through measure 17 and all those. I'm going to lift up to hear the rest. Now measure 21 here, I'm going to lift up on measure 22 here. One beat of rest. So again, measure 21, rest, here, and then I'm going to lift up, one beat of rest. When I go back to the beginning, and I'm going to pedal it the same way I just did. Yeah. Then the coda. We're dying away here, and yet we got all this sound going, all this all the way up. It's hard to die away when you got all that sound going. So what I want to do is I want to get rid of some of it. So I'm going to change the pedal here. Approximately every 2 measures. But starting at measure 26 here, then change. Each time I go up, I change the pedal, so I lose the other part. And then here you got a choice. I don't know what you like to hear. You can leave the pedal down for the last 4 measures, and you have all that sound going, or change it in the next to the last measure. I kind of like the sound going, so I'm probably going to pedal the last 4 measures all the way across. But on these others, I'm changing the pedal every 2 measures. When I go up the keyboard here, from here to here, I change the pedal. And again to here, I change the pedal there. That's my suggestion on the pedal. But you have to listen, what do you like to hear? Please don't copy me. That's just one way of playing it. You can try different things with the dynamics. How do you feel them? Remember the natural accents? 1, 2, 3. Each of these, it should go to here, go to here, go to. So make sure it sounds like that. Even on the measure 26 and those, 1, 2. Give that first one a little extra. I'm exaggerating so you can hear it better, but give that first beat of each measure just a little extra. So it's a 1, 2 here. Let's play this together very slowly and check the notes and the rhythms. I'm going to pedal it like I suggested, and I'll give us 2 counts. Just ready, go, because we come in on beat 3. We're going to play the whole thing. I'm not going to do the louds and softs, just notes and rhythms. That's all we're doing here. And that retardando there in measure 23, you just slow down a little bit here. Yeah, I can't do that with the play with me. So we'll just keep the same speed going. Ready and go, and. Rest. Two and three. Hold to the beginning. Rest. To the coda. Rest, rest. Two, three, 1, 2, 3, off.